The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Here comes pressure, throws it to Eckler on the screen. He's got a block to the 10, to the 5, into the end zone.
High pass. Did Williams make that catch? My goodness.
For a first down, Herbert with time. Now running out of time. Throws on the run. Down the sideline. Caught in the end zone. Keenan Allen for the touchdown.
Throws, and again it's intercepted. And that's Asante Samuel.
Here's another one. Watch out.
How did it feel when Derwin James absolutely powerbombed the out of it on national television?
You're listening to the Shock Therapy Podcast with Tyler Lawrence and Zach Alfers.
And we're back with another episode of the Shock Therapy Podcast. Zach is back in action. Baseball's in full swing. Padres are not playing very well.
They're trash
at all. What is going on? Now Manny's got a broken finger or something like that.
Yeah, Manny hit the IL. Baseball in general,
just the Padres in general.
I have no idea. The Padres are stinking. They have no type of consistency. I'm not going to give any excuses. They're playing horrible. They need to play better. Now, they have had a lot of injuries, but I'm not buying it. They're way too talented to be where they're at right now. I know a couple weeks. It's everything. They're 15-2 when they score 4 or more runs. The thing is, there's no type of consistency. If the bats are there, the pitching's horrible, and if the pitching's horrible, there's no offense. So I know a couple games ago, Bob Melvin didn't let anybody out of the locker room for like 2 hours. They were like due for press and media releases 2 hours earlier, and they were still in there. So hopefully he was yelling at them. Hopefully the tide turns here. They got a big series against the Red Sox starting tonight. So I don't know. A lot needs to start clicking for the Padres. The beauty of baseball is there's 180 games, so they have plenty of time to figure that out. But wearing my hat to help spark some life into them because they look dead right now.
They are so dead. Before we get into this episode, we're going to be talking about the Chargers' top 3 draft picks. One thing I kind of wanted to bring in, and I'll present my screen so everybody can look, but I found this guy. His name's Jay Fitters on Instagram, and he's got a pretty legit store going on right now. Let me go ahead and share this. All right, so Jay Fitters, this guy sells a ton of throwback jerseys. I mean, you can think of any era. He's got them broken down here. A lot of cool items in here. Some stuff that's kind of hard to find. Like, you don't find Humphrey jersey. I haven't seen a Humphreys jerseys at a game, I don't think, ever, right? He's got some cool patches in here. A lot of just cool throwback stuff. He actually will create some of his own jerseys where he's gone and pressed this image on the jersey, which is kind of cool. Something a little bit different. If you use a code SHOCKTHERAPY5, it'll save you $5 off of his store. A lot of cool items in here, not just jerseys, but I mean some throwback windbreakers. He'll have some hats on there. He breaks it down by individual eras of football. I mean, here's a Lionel James jersey out of stock. You see that he sells a lot of stuff. He's got a Dan Fouts here, like an old school Dan Fouts jersey, like stuff that you can't really find very easily, even on eBay. Cool little patch on here. I think this is like a size smaller or something like that, but still, like it's a pretty cool store. Somebody that I've kind of wanted to kind of partner with and kind of help boost his viewership and people coming on. Like, look at this Allworth jersey here, dude. Like, this thing is sick, stitched, super clean, super nice. You can see some of the stitching in here. You know, he's got the Mitchell and Ness, just a lot of cool stuff, man. Like, I really just like to go onto a store sometimes just to see what he has out there. All these different eras. Like, look at this. Look at this jacket. How vintage is that? something I think I could see like Don Coryell wearing, right?
Or like it reminds me of like an 80s ski jacket.
I mean, that's exactly what it is. Is there an agent here? Made in Hong Kong. That's interesting. Size medium. I mean, just so much stuff onto this store, dude. It's just kind of fun to go in, just take a look at it. You know, John Butler Memorial Patch. Like, where are you going to find that at? He sold a couple cool old school Seau jerseys. I mean, look at this beautiful thing here, man.
That's nice. It looks like it's multiple. No, there's just the lighting there. It's still sick.
It is. It's insane how cool some of this stuff is. Even his pictures are kind of legit. Oh, this one was cool. Was it this one? It wasn't this one. So, like I said, he'll go and iron on these patches of like, you know, like how cool is that to be able to get a cool patch ironed on straight onto the jersey. This one. So he decked out this girl's jersey, but if you look at it, it's actually sparkles. Never watched this thing, right? But like it's kind of cool. So just something I kind of wanted to pop out here. He's created some of his own shirts, ironed on some of these little graphics onto here. Go check out his store. You can find it at JFitters. He posts all this stuff onto his Instagram. Go onto Instagram, look at JFitters, take a look at some of the stuff he's got. Look at this Charlie Joyner jersey. Just kind of a cool guy. He had a game day, which these are really hard to find, these game day programs. Oh, look how I want that jersey, dude. Oh, you're not even seeing this. I'm on a different thing. Anyways, I'm sharing a tab. But there's just a lot of cool stuff, man. So Shock Therapy 5 will save you 5%. And let's go ahead and get into – I lose you at all, Zach? There you go. Let's get into this. So let's
I saw most of it.
Yeah, let's talk about the Chargers first-round draft pick. Let's start with Quentin Johnston, who's a player I really wasn't expecting the Chargers go and draft. What are your thoughts on Quentin Johnston? I know we got to talk a little bit about him on the podcast we went on to during the actual NFL draft. Do you think that he's the piece that we kind of were looking for?
Yeah, I think everybody was a little shocked with it because I don't know, everyone on the outside know what the team wants, and at the end of the day, being a fan is more about what you as opposed to what's probably better for the team. And so I know a lot of people wanted Zay Flowers. He doesn't fit the mold Telesco wants. So what he do? He goes in a big body receiver, Quentin Johnston, 6'3", 215, big boy. But he does give us the vertical presence and, most importantly, the yard after catch presence that we're missing. I think he's going to be an excellent complement with Keenan as the true slot guy with Mike Williams and his progression into superstardom, being the contested catch specialist he is, but also adding to his game. Now you got a guy who can get you deep, who knows how to stack defenders, who has to read the explosiveness. At 6'3", this guy is a 40-inch vertical, runs a 4.5. This dude is checks all the boxes from like a physical standpoint. And once the ball gets into his hands, that's when Johnson becomes a problem. He has to turn a nothing into a touchdown, a home run play. This guy forced 19 missed tackles last year on 60 receptions. That's
at 6'3".
On top of that,
that's not
nearly
normal.
18. No, he's shifty. The dude is hard to take down. It was second in the nation with 8.7 yards after the catch, nearly 18 yards per catch. Now where he struggles is with focus on catches. He has 30 drops during his TCU career. Last year, he had 8 drop catches alone, more than touchdowns. So nearly 12% catchable or drops on catchable passes thrown his way. So does need to work on that. You took a flyer on his athleticism, his ability to change the game when the ball's in his hands. That's what the Chargers were missing. And as a guy who's going to be the third best receiver, fourth best option, after Eckler, and fifth maybe after, if you're going to count Taiwan there. He's going to get plenty of opportunities to ease into his role. He has all of the physical tools to eventually develop into a number one receiver, but he has the luxury of time and a great supporting cast and a superstar quarterback throwing in the ball. I can't wait to see number one in action, getting comfortable with the playbook, learning from Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, and then being able to build that bond with Justin Herbert. I think it's going to be fantastic, and I really can't wait to see that in action.
I feel like the Chargers really have a fascination for size at the wide receiver position. Keenan Allen, 6'2", Mike Williams, 6'4", Josh Palmer and Jalen Guyton are both 6'1". Each of them has a special element that they bring to that wide receiver core, but none of them really boast that dynamic run after the catch ability. Adding Quentin Johnston at 6'3", not the typical big body receiver that you're usually accustomed to. He's got more finesse to his game than his size would typically suggest. But he's got enough speed. He's not explosive speed, but it's enough to not get caught from behind. 4.52 40-yard dash at the combine. You talked about that 40-inch vert. That's insanely high. He gets up and out of there. Though his jumping ability ranked in the 95th percentile of all wide receivers, going back to however long the relative athletic score has been, measuring that type of thing. He's got kind of decent above average hands, 9.6-inch hands. So he's got big hands to come down with some contested grabs. It's kind of shocking that he's got those drop issues, concentration issues, right? But he's a lighter guy, 208 pounds. He checks all the measurable boxes physically in a draft class that really lacked size. And that was a big reason why the Chargers probably went and pulled the trigger, because after him, they probably felt like they could get a speedy wide receiver, which they did in the 4th round. We'll talk about him next week. Statistically speaking, 60 receptions, 1,069 yards, 6 touchdowns, which is a big boost in production from years past. He had less than that over the first 2 years of his career. Really had some troubles at the quarterback position, which we drafted him too. So we'll talk about him next week as well. But on film, he's got that rare size, strength, speed to really be a threat. Ran lots of under routes, curls, drags, things of that nature, in addition to hit some of his deeper streaks and posts. Over 80% of his snaps came from outside. That's where he projects to play for us next season. Probably more of a true Z wide receiver, somebody you're going to move into motion and stack him behind Keenan Allen. They trusted him in a lot of quick passing concepts, allowed him to get the ball in space and really become a threat as a runner, because he's not your typical big 6'3" type of wide receiver. Deep ball specialist, he's really good at tracking the ball. Really contorts to make some special grabs, and he had to come back to the ball quite a bit and make some tough grabs. He's a long strider, maintains his distance when he gets some separation, that size, leaping ability to beat most defenders at the catch point. I just wish that he always used that jumping ability and that aggressiveness to go and get the ball, because I feel like he lets it slide into him, like he's trying to catch it over his shoulder instead of turning around, going up and being the big man that he is and plucking the ball out of the air. It's just not what he does. It's weird, right? You're looking at some smaller wide receivers, Josh Downs, Jaden Reed, Zay Flowers. They all caught contested catches above 50% of their contested catch targets. He only caught 34% of his contested catches. So that's kind of a big issue with him. I think some of those issues might be just ball placement, right? Like having to try to catch the ball behind him, or, the quarterback really throwing into a position where he's not going to win a lot of those matchups, or putting it in a place where he can. The drop issues, the concentration stuff can be kind of fixed, but he's just not the type of wide receiver you'd expect to be a rack wide receiver. And it's kind of like it's almost kind of like a downside to me, because he's not super agile. He just knows how to use the spacing around him and create for himself when he's got some space in front of him. So I don't know. What are your total expectations for him going into this year? Is he going to be your wide receiver 3? Is he going to play over Josh Palmer, or is he a future type of guy?
I honestly think, based on how we played last year, based on what we need, I think teams are going to be hyper focused on Keenan, Mike Williams. They're going to respect Eckler's pass catching ability, and I think he's going to see a lot of one-on-one matchups. I could see him being the number 2 or 3 fantasy point scorer on this team, not including Justin Herbert, because I don't think it's fair. As like the skill position players, I think he has the potential to get 6 touchdowns this year. And and all of those touchdowns are going to be explosive 20-yarders, just based on we have in other areas. He's not going to be a red zone threat because of the ability to consistently bring down contested catches. But I have a lot of faith in this guy, especially because his biggest knocks, his drop passes, his inability to go get contested catches. To me, it is less about the ball placement and all about his technique. He waits for the ball to get on him, and you've alluded to it, especially on deep balls. Instead of going up and getting it, he kind of naturally lets it fall to him. He lets it, even when he's open, he does the same type of thing. He lets it get into his chest plate, and that has led to an abundance of drops. So getting his technique solidified at the NFL level, it'll take some time. Just getting his hands out, using those 9, nearly 10-inch hands to go out and pluck the ball out of the air as opposed to letting it come to you, that's fixable. He's athletic enough to get around that. And what we needed was what he's great at, his ability to take the ball and make something special happen. I really anticipating Kellen Moore to use him early on as a slant, a crosser, get him the ball and see what he can do to build that before we start using them as a true deep threat. But people are going to have to respect him because the dude is explosive and he knows how to stack his defenders. And so he's going to be a threat right out the bat, especially because he's not going to be the primary focus.
Right. I think he's going to come in as the 4th wide receiver in this rotation behind Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Josh Palmer. I think that's your core type of guys right there. So there's not going to be a lot of targets going his way, especially because I think the Chargers are going to run the ball a lot more than they have, especially if they do it successfully. They can lean on a little bit more, which will open up more passing lanes, force the defense to kind of come up. But, I mean, as a team that is going to play a lot of 2 tight end sets, you'll probably see some more 21 personnel, so 2 running backs. Hello? Oh, sorry, my screen went dark. But I have one second. I have the Chargers kind of taking kind of a slow approach to him. Right now, I have them projected at 40 receptions, 512 yards, 4 touchdowns, and I think he's going to be kind of a big red zone threat to kind of start. But I mean, could he jump Josh Palmer on the depth chart? Absolutely. I just don't see him getting as many opportunities without some sort of injury, and our wide receiver core has been susceptible to that. I think this is going to be more of a breakout year in year 2, depending on what happens with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and our salary cap situation next year. The Chargers went and drafted in the 2nd round edge rusher, whatever you want to call him, Tuli Tuipulotu. Talk about kind of what he brings, his power, his strength, and really the need that the Chargers had to have somebody with Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa.
Yeah. I love this pick. I thought it was for one, I liked the guy. I thought we needed an edge in those first 2 picks. So the fit was there. And then for him to be there when we were selecting it too, I thought there was a chance that he would slip into the last. A guy who leads the nation in sacks, coming from a Power 12 school like USC, coming from the Pac-12. Seeing a guy like that go with 13.5 sacks last year, go in the 2nd round is an absolute steal. So we got an absolute animal. and he checks a lot of boxes. Versatile, super strong, and a pass rush beast. And all three of those things we needed. We had so many injuries along the defensive line last year, and we're able to generate no type of pass rush outside of Khalil Mack. Joey Bosa only played for a little bit, but outside of Khalil, we had some spurts from a Vanoy and good games from Tranquil and Derwin James every once in a while, but edge guys weren't impacting the game. And so we needed some type of backup plan in place for the fact that Joey Bosa has had injury concerns and he's getting older. Khalil Mack is not a young buck anymore. Very, very productive still, but he's not going to be there forever. So you need to have some type of gives you that. He is going to be a phenomenal rotational pass rusher. And because of his versus that truly infatuated with his ability to bump inside, I'm really excited for a front that sees Morgan Fox and Tuli in the middle with Khalil and Joey Bosa rounding out the edges. That is going to be nightmares. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to crumble. He is not going to play that day. He's going to be injured that game. Nobody wants to play a defensive line like that. So he's got a lot of reps early on because he could play a lot of different positions. And I have this new added. As soon as Staley came in, he was like, I need a great offensive line. I need a great defensive line. Okay, now I have those. Now I need to build the depth in the core. Good teams have 10 guys on the line, both phases, and we're starting to build that. So I think Tuli is a great depth piece. He's, I think, instantly slotted in as numbered edge rusher, and I think he could make a run in camp as a number 2 in the interior, especially with Austin Johnson and Otito coming back from severe leg injuries last season. So I think it's a tremendous addition, especially where we got him. And I'm excited to see the young guy get to work because he absolutely terrorizes. I think he led the nation in both sacks and quarterback hits. And so this dude doesn't just pressure the quarterback. He makes contact and he makes impactful plays. And I'm excited to see that let loose, next year in the powder blue. And the guy gets to stay local because he's a USC kid.
Yeah, exactly. Next biggest need on the depth chart was edge after finding some other wide receiver to help the offense fix the struggles that they had. When you take a look at Joey Bosa's injury history, the groin injury he had early in the year last year, really puts the Chargers in precarious spots opposite Khalil Mack. PFF graded the Chargers' run defense the third lowest in the NFL, allowing 144 yards per game. That's just only slightly worse than 2021 when they allowed 138 yards per game. It's been a major issue since at least 2018. Like, the Chargers have not been able to stop the run. And Tuli Tuipulotu was the defender they selected in the second round, flexibility to kind of move and play multiple positions to help fix that issue. 6'3", 266 pounds. I mean, he's got good size, and I just don't know where they're going to have him play primarily. I think they called him as an edge rusher. His weight measured in at a combine, though, was not the same weight he played at USC. A lot of people estimated that he played closer to 285, 290, likely toned to test better at the combine, show that he was an edge because, honestly, that's where the money is, right? Like, if you're kind of a dual player, you want to play the primary position. It's going to get you paid more, and edge rushers by far get paid the most. So it makes sense that he's really tried to solidify his role going into the combine and tell everybody, hey, I'm an edge rusher. Over the last season, 46 tackles, 22 tackles for loss. He gets in the backfield and he's very, very disruptive back there. 13 and a half sacks, 29 stops. He made a lot of plays behind or at the line of scrimmage, forcing like bad offensive plays. I think the biggest draw to him is just strong, powerful hands, gets off contact to get around defenders and find the ball carrier. He's an excellent tactician at swiping blocks, getting into gaps, getting around tackles toward the quarterback. He's got a really strong lower torso, generates a ton of power, drives defenders backwards, plays with great effort. Every single snap, brings it literally on every down. It's a major reason why he was able to stack so much production on the stat sheet. He led all edge rushers in sacks you were talking about and top 10 in total pressures with 56. Makes himself available through
Jeez.
in every game, played 30 straight games over the last 3 years, even through some minor injuries. Showed a lot of discipline to me not be called for penalties 2 over the last 3 years. That's it. Lined up off the edge 72% of his snaps last season, over the tackle on 18. And then he even lined up on the interior in the A gap in goal line situations. In Staley's scheme, he has an opportunity to play kind of the same role Morgan Fox has. Morgan Fox last year played primarily in the middle. But if you go back to his time with the Rams, he was an edge player for them when injury asked him to do that. He's very similar to Morgan Fox in terms of, what he's good at. I think that the biggest drawback is kind of that length. He's not really a lengthy defender, and he's not very bendy. He uses his hands to win in pass rush. He doesn't use bend to really turn the corner, force the quarterback to get up into the pocket. He uses his hands, and he's a really good tactician at that. I think one of the biggest issues with him, he missed 31% of his total tackle attempts. That's a big, large amount. Which actually is also kind of impressive because think about how much production he had and then how much he left off the stat sheet. So him being able to develop and finish some of those plays it's the only reason why he wasn't a first round draft pick in the same light as Will Anderson or Tyree Wilson. Showed out as an All-American, Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. What are your expectations for him going into the season? Is he going to play a pretty significant role, or is it going to be more of a development year for him? I mean, how much playing time are you expecting him to see with our defensive depth chart the way it is today?
Yeah, I think two ways it can go. If developmental year, that's good for the Chargers because that means Austin Johnson and Otito are fully recovered from their injuries, and so they're going to demand some significant minutes. It also would mean that, Sebastian Joseph Day is developing some more pass rush as opposed to just being a run stuffer up the middle. Now, if any of those guys struggle, then you're going to see a significant number of snacks for him because I think he's instantly ahead of the depth chart as far as Chris Rumpf. I think Chris Rumpf is great. We can continue to develop him. He has shown that he doesn't deserve consistent snaps. And I like what Tuli can bring. You mentioned the power. He is easily the hardest hitting as far as hand fighting. He's the best hand fighter in this edge class because he just knocks hands away. He is somebody you do not want to get in a fist fight with. And maybe he's not as explosive as a Joey Bosa or Khalil Mack off the edge, but he doesn't give up. He has a high motor, and he is a load to stop once he gets rolling. So I on top of that, he can get after the quarterback. He was a 19.2% pass rush win rate last year. So I think he's instantly going to be edge 3. He's going to get the third most snaps behind Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack on that position. I think it's a developmental year if those interior guys stay healthy. If not, you're going to see Tuli line up edge, middle a lot, and you're going to see him as probably one of the go-to defensive linemen regardless of positions. So I think you could see him in a 6-man role if the middle, those interior guys that I mentioned before aren't healthy or not cutting it as far as a production standpoint.
Before we get and talk about Daiyan Henley, I kind of want to bring in a quick ad. We're going to talk a little bit about Mahler Bros. Take you 1 minute.
Hi, everybody. Captain Lou here. Hey, if you're like me, you want to look good on the golf course, but it often comes at the expense of feeling good. Well, Mailer Brothers Golf has polos that look good and feel good. With their lightweight and stretchy material that hugs your body, you will feel good and look just as good. Their polos are guaranteed to make you look better, but it's up to you to get your golf game better. On a hot summer day on the golf course, there's no polo that you would rather wear than Mailer Brothers Golf signature polos. Mailer Brothers Golf has a large catalog of photos with designs for those who want a loud design or maybe more of a sleek and subtle looking design. They also have fun t-shirts, hats, tumblers, and so much more to make your golfing experience that much better. Hey, when you're at MailerBrothers.com, make sure you use the promo code BELLYUP for 15% off your discount. That's the promo code BELLYUP for 15% off. MailerBrothers.com, your place to go for polos and making yourself look good on the golf course. And again, use the promo code BELLYUP for 15% off. That's MailerBrothers.com.
Totally forgot. I actually wanted to talk about my expectations for Tuli, but segue anyways. So I think he's going to play a pretty big role in Brandon Staley's defense. With Joey Bosa's injury history, Khalil Mack's also 32 years old. I think he's primed to play quite a bit in 2023. His flexibility to play on the interior provides even additional reasons for him to get on the field, especially with third and long situations. He's a player that you can line up into the A gap over the tackle and let him stunt and get outside, or even just hold his point of attack and try to force defenders into the lap of the quarterback, really limiting the amount of time that a quarterback has to throw on third down. I think he's going to jump Chris Rumpf on the depth chart, especially just easily for playing time. I just think he's a more physical player, and that brings something that is needed on the Chargers defense. Type of player that should help fix the run defense issues early in his career. And I think he's got Pro Bowl potential. He's a pretty likable guy. He's kind of funny. Nice. He's talking about, I don't know if you had a chance to watch him and Daiyan Henley's press conferences, but he's just talking about, like, you know, one of his favorite moments was getting 3 sacks against Wazoo and the two kind of going back and forth against each other. My projected stats for him, I've got 68 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks. That's a lot of production for a rookie, especially some guy who's not going to be a starter right away. But yeah, I mean, if you look at his ability and how much he could potentially be on the field in passing situations, I mean, you're going to see a guy who's probably going to be lined up on the opposite side of Morgan Fox in those, 5 defensive lineman sets, and he's going to go and get some pressure on the quarterback. So I think he's going to play a lot more than the depth chart would suggest. And I think that, being able to keep Khalil Mack healthy and fresh for the length of the season at 32 years old just makes a lot of sense to give Tuli, 10% of the snaps at edge and another 10% lined up on the interior somewhere, and just let him go to work and get some playing time and really develop into the monster that I think that he could potentially become. The Chargers drafted in the 3rd round, Wazoo linebacker Daiyan Henley. This is one of the guys that you covered during our linebacker episode. You've got a lot more knowledge than I do on him. Go ahead and tell me everything you need to tell me about Daiyan Henley.
I was excited to get Daiyan. Drew Tranquil leaving what was a bummer. But Daiyan is absolutely what teams, especially going away from the traditional 3 linebacker sets that we used to just dominate, 10, 20 years ago. It's all about getting after the passer these days and having one guy to roam the middle of your defense. And for that role, you need a guy who has great instincts and great coverage skills. And Daiyan Henley has, despite being only playing the position for 3 years, he has all of the potential to develop into the next great coverage linebacker. And I think it fits his skill set. I think fits tremendously with what Staley wants to do and what the Chargers are missing. The first thing I think that comes out in Daiyan's game is he is an offensive skill position player first. He has great instincts. He knows how routes are going to develop. He knows where guys want to be. He knows that guys don't want him in certain places. And so he is very, very disruptive at the point of catch before the ball even gets into the air. He has all of those instincts. It's almost like a third sense. Beyond that, the dude is very, very strong. And despite being new to the defensive side of the football, he could be one of the best tacklers that we have on this team. The dude does not miss tackles, and he brings tremendous play strength. He brings tremendous technique. Once he gets his hand on you, you are wrapped up. You are not going anywhere. He has the vice grip type of draw on guys, and he is just dragging them to the ground. He missed 8.2% of his tackle attempts during his entire career. And so he uses those long 33-inch arms to get guys. And so I think he's going to I think especially where he's at on the depth chart, we got Eric Hendricks to kind of take down that everyday role. I think you're still going to see us continue try to develop Kenneth Murray. You got Amin Ogboniga and Nick Neiman as solid depth pieces, and special team guys, but as a team who struggled consistently on broken tackles, a team who was great in coverage but just couldn't get the guy down. I think Daiyan instantly, he transcends our coverage teams, which have taken so much, have progressed so much these last couple of seasons. I think Daiyan's going to become a tremendous coverage player year one, with his potential and newness to the position. I think he eventually becomes the every down linebacker that is coveted in Staley's system, a ball hawking line, sideline to sideline, can do it everything. He's not going to miss tackles type of linebacker. But day one, I think you get a great coverage player to add to an up and coming special team unit.
Since 2017, the Chargers haven't had a different starting linebacker or duo in every year. So this year it's going to be Eric Kendricks, and it's going to be a single starting linebacker because the Chargers only typically have one on the field. Last year was Drew Tranquil. The year before that, it was Kaiser White. Now, if you go back to the Gus Bradley days, it was Kenneth Murray and Kaiser White in 2020. 2019, it was Thomas Davis and Denzel Perryman. Then 2018, Perryman and Jatavius Brown. 2017, it was Denzel Perryman and Hayes Pullard. So the Chargers have had no consistency at the linebacker position because every year they're cycling through those guys. Linebacker in recent years has been slightly better, moving more toward that single starter under Brandon Staley than having the Mike Sam duo under Gus Bradley. But the issue of consistency kind of remains. Kendricks is not going to be a long-term answer at 31 years old. He's under contract for 2 years. Kenneth Murray fails to really build on what I thought was a pretty positive rookie season, but he hasn't progressed and developed the way that you'd hope. Now we're he's kind of headed toward first round bust territory. In probably his final season wearing powder blue,
he's close.
Chargers drafted. What's up? What did you say?
No, I was a little delayed. I was a little delayed, but you said he's a first round bust waiting to happen. I said he's pretty close. He needs to figure it out, and he has one more year.
Yeah, this is his last year. This is his last year to prove it. And I think that he's going to be ahead of Henley on the depth chart because I think he's got the size and same athletic ability, and he's got a lot to play for entering a contract year. Usually year 4 is where players figure it out or they just become career backups. So this is his last year to really figure it out. The Chargers drafted Henley to develop into a capable starter. Hopefully he can become kind of a mainstay for us for a little while so that we can get that position figured out. Physically, 6 foot, 6'1" and 7/8, 6 foot and 7/8, 225 pounds. He's one of the smallest, lightest linebackers you'll see drafted in any year. His play style, all speed and agility, 4.54 40, exceptional. The NFL is moving towards smaller, faster linebackers who can cover large areas of the field in pursuit very quickly. Plus, they want really coverage ability because it is a passing league. He's got long arms. It helps with batting down balls. He's really explosive. 35-inch vert at his size, pretty damn good. Broad jump, especially at his position as well. Ultra athletic, and that's just how he plays. 6 years of college football experience, and he's only 23 years old, so that's a lot of production, and he's still pretty young. Last year, he had 106 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, an interception, 3 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries. So his production all over the place. 94 tackles last year or the year before that with Nevada, 2 tackles for loss, 4 interceptions, 3 fumble recoveries, 2 defensive touchdowns. Production. But he was a safety. He was a nickel. He was a wide receiver. He was a quarterback in high school. His knowledge of the game has to be so much higher than everybody else because he knows everybody's responsibility. That's not offensive line, defensive line. It's the only thing he's not played. He was even a running back in high school. So, he did it all. Charged up athlete, great speed, chases down ball carriers from behind. He's got really good gap discipline. He plays much bigger than his size would suggest, and he scrapes really close to the line of scrimmage, rarely out of position. and he uses agility to beat blockers. He dips into gaps and he clogs up holes. While he may not have the prototypical play strength, he's just not the biggest guy. He's not afraid to take blockers head on, and he's got great instincts to be a formidable run stuffer. He's a grab and drag tackler. He's not really a knock you back type of guy. He's going to alligator spin you to the ground. It's just what he does. He also had a knack for being disruptive. Go ahead. He is dead weight, right?
He's just dead weight. He just hangs on you just like a sandbag. It's a wet sandbag.
And it works. It totally works for what he does. He's got 40 stops in back-to-back seasons. He's really underrated with his ability to generate turnovers, 3 forced fumbles, and 5 interceptions over the last 2 years. That's pretty good ball production and getting the ball to your offense. Super versatile. I talked about all the positions. Instincts will need to develop further for the hooks and curls specialist that he is. He just hasn't played the position very long to be good in coverage at the role that he does. That's not saying he's bad at it. It means that he's only done it for a short period of time, and it's going to develop and continue to develop because he was a defensive back for a while there. I think the biggest knock is going to be the size disadvantage. It's going to be a major talking point early in his career. He carries a really cut up, low body fat frame, but the size disadvantage of being nearly 100 pounds lighter than the offensive lineman in front of him, he's going to get washed out in the run game. It's just going to happen until he's able to get with the training staff and bulk up a little bit. Underrated as a pass rusher, 18 pressures, 3 sacks last season. I think it needs to be refined further. I think he just uses agility to kind of beat guys, but if he gets hands on him, he's going to lose more often than not until he's able to, get a little bit stronger and bring some more play strength to him. Not a player you're going to want in short yardage situations. Running backs are going to churn out those extra yards on contact. So what are your expectations? What do you think Daiyan Henley is going to play as a role for the Chargers? In my mind, I think he's going to be third on the depth chart, potentially even lower because you've got other guys who are also ultra athletic behind him. You're talking about linebacker. We drafted out of Iowa in the 6th round a couple years ago. What's his name?
Nick Niemann. And then you need a thumper. Amin Agumbiga is a big dude.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you think he's going to jump Nick Niemann? I feel like I've liked Nick Niemann from what I've seen from him.
Yeah, I like Nick Niemann. I think Daiyan kind of gives you – I think Daiyan's in a developmental role, and we took him where we did because we believe in his potential. 3 years playing a position. I know he has a lot of experience. That is not a whole – that isn't – there's not a whole lot of stock in his game. I think he brings tremendous versatility, so we're going to find a spot for him. I think day one, it's going to be a coverage guy, and they're going to rotate him instantly. I think what I'm excited about is his potential, and especially just comparing from Kenneth Murray. Kenneth Murray is a lot stronger at contact, and could be an effective run stuffer. He consistently picks in. He's always in the wrong place. Dion's the exact opposite, and yes, he could get blown back easy and early in his career, but he's going to at least be in the right place, and that's going to slow game speed. That's going to slow running backs' progression and vision and cutback lanes. So I don't know. I think day one is going to be one of our best coverage guys. I think he's going to be on the same type of level as Nick Niemann was when he got elected to as the special team. What did he win? He won he went to the all rookie team for special team coverage player. I think we could see that again repeated with Daiyan. And we're going to slowly ease him into snaps at the defensive side of the ball, just because that's kind of Staley's MO. He's not going to give guys too much to deal with, even guys who've been playing the position for their whole lives. So just given how he's kind of operated the, Spillers, even he kind of ease to his role. I think it's not gonna be until late in the year or even next year you're gonna see Daiyan taking significant defensive snaps. But I think day one he's gonna be all over the special teams depth chart.
Yeah, I think he's going to be projected to be third on the depth chart behind Eric Kendricks and Kenneth Murray to start his career. I think he could leap Murray if Murray continues to have issues. But with as much as the Chargers play that 5-1-5, the 5 defensive linemen, 1 linebacker, 5 defensive backs, I just don't see him seeing the field very often. And I think Murray's primed for a much bigger role as he enters his 4th professional season. Athletically, like Murray is still a really enticing option and somebody that I actually have as like a breakout candidate. You remember a couple of years ago when we first started the podcast, I was like, hey, like Kenneth Murray is going to lead the NFL in tackles and he's going to become an all-pro. That didn't happen.
I think you even had said at one point it was like to get ridiculous.
Defensive player of the year.
Yeah, we have 6 players who could win player of the year, and he was one of them. And I was, well, you were wrong on that one. Maybe this is the year. Maybe this is the year you get it all right, Tyler.
But he's got everything you want out of a linebacker. He's big, like he's a thick, big, muscular.
It's baffling.
Just the mental.
I'm hoping.
Like he has
what I hope
mental...
it is. Let's keep talking about how he's low. He hasn't lived up to expectations, and maybe we'll get one of those Nwosu breakout games. Remember when we pissed Nwosu off, and then he had 2 interceptions against the Chiefs and had one of his best games of his careers?
Yeah, I mean, I still think that Murray has so much potential to be great.
I want it to happen. No, I like the number. I like the guy. I like the story. He just needs to put it all together, and
he's got everything you want out of wanting to be a superstar.
He's very likable, not just because I love my team, but like his story is great. We gave up a lot to go and grab this guy. I don't know if he puts it together. If he's going to be a solid player in this league, he puts it together next year. There's no way
this year he does it. This year,
if he can't put it this year. Then he's a rotational guy, a solid 2 to 3 piece. If he's going to be the breakout guy that we went up to get, it happens this year. There's no way it happens next year. I don't know. There's too much in his favor.
Like he needs to figure it out.
Because I want to root for the
injuries. Guy. Yeah, he's got no more injuries. He's got the best prototypical size, athleticism, likable guy.
He's great.
Man, he just needs to make it happen. And it's going to happen this year. And Henley is not going to see the field except for special teams. He's going to be a core 4 special teamer until the draft gets him on a really good bulk regimen. For this reason, I think Henley's he's just not going to see the field. Projected stats, 12 tackles, 1 fumble recovery. It's going to happen on special teams. Even like Henley is really likable. Like he's a really, really likable character. Everybody seems to love his interviews. He's kind of funny.
And he's from Crenshaw.
Yeah, he's from Crenshaw. So like he's got that all going for him. He's in a really good position to sit and learn. And that athleticism just it really can translate into something kind of special. Kind of like a Drew Tranquil coming up, kind of same story in terms of like being a safety transition to linebacker. Henley's going to be a really core player for the special teams. I mean, this guy was a gunner for Wazoo. So he lined up outside and ran with a DB covering him and led his team in 2 seasons in special teams tackles. So it's got to happen. We got to make it happen. In other Chargers news, the Chargers did sign defensive tackle Nick Williams. I don't have a whole lot of notes. I know he played for the Giants last year. I think he got injured like halfway through the year. He's like 33 years old. Going to be kind of that Christian Covington replacement, somebody that if you need to cut a player during training camp to make room for your 53-man roster, he'll just hang out there on the side until you put whoever you need to on IR. He comes back in. So kind of the same situation we had Christian Covington. Just provide some depth to the defensive line on the interior, which I think is needed. probably going to be more of a run stuffer to start his career than he is going to be like a pass rusher at 33 years old. At 300 pounds, you've lost any of that ability. So, and then I kind of want to talk about John Johnson's signing. So that's got to happen. I don't think it's going to happen soon. He's still out there. From John Johnson's point of view, there's no reason for him to sign and go to OTAs. Like, he's not going to do that. He's probably hanging out trying to see if he can get a better offer. But I highly, highly expect us to go and pick him up either during or after training camp. I mean, he's a veteran. He probably doesn't want to go to training camp, and he'd probably just sign on with whoever looks like the best team going into the season. So I think that he has a real good opportunity to still be picked. I just don't think he has any incentive to sign with anybody right now until a team needs him and comes looking. So any thoughts on Nick Williams? I'm not sure if you had a chance to learn about him.
Yeah. Again, I like I like putting more bodies in the trenches. Didn't see in the last couple of tenures before Staley. So this commitment to getting big up front, I love it. Body is a position that you can't move around it. People are going to get banged up. You're going to need a lot of guys there who fill. And I'm excited about Nick Williams. He's not going to get a ton of exposure. Hopefully he doesn't get a ton of playing time, because that means Austin Johnson and Otito Ogbongbemiga, who I was mentioning earlier on the top of this podcast, they're going to come back. But he does give you a safety valve in case those guys aren't ready to go early on. And what I like about the fit for Nick Williams in particular, 2019 was the best season to date. He had 60 tackles. He had 5 sacks in just 6 starts. Or no, 6 sacks in 5 starts. And he did all of that in Chicago with Brandon Staley as the defensive line coach. So in a familiar place, in a situation where he's surrounded by guys where he's played his best football, I'm excited for that. Also wanted to just hop on the John Johnson train. The Chargers signed 3 very, very impactful free agents after the draft, being Kyle Van Noy, Bryce, and Morgan Fox. So not done. We're going to get some bargain guys here, get a couple bargain guys, and they're going to most likely play some big roles. It's however Telesco and Staley view they need some help. Because right now I think we got so excited to see the extra veteran pieces they add on, on like that veteran after the draft discount, which is inevitably coming.
The position that I feel like we still need to continue to add to, I think we need another corner. Unless you're comfortable Jasir Taylor taking those snaps at the slot. JC Jackson probably not going to be ready. He looks good, like in terms of his rehab coming back. Probably still not going to be ready for week 1. You're probably looking at Michael Davis, Asante Samuel Jr., and Jasir Taylor being your starters there. Let's say JC Jackson comes back like week 6. I think Asante Samuel is likely going to slide inside, play as our nickel corner, and you'll probably have Michael Davis and JC Jackson outside. Probably could use our slot cornerback from last year. What's his name? Who was our slot last year? Bryce Callahan.
Bryce Callahan.
Yeah, I would like to see him make a late season signing, come back in, play a significant role for us on the interior, and give us the ability to let Jasir Taylor continue to develop. I think we could use another safety. Right now, our starting 3 is going to be Derwin James, Alohi Gilman, and JT Woods, probably going to play an increased role. But based off of what I saw with JT Woods last year, I'm not totally sold on his ability. We'll see how he kind of comes out during training camp. We still have Mark Webb on the roster. Never managed to really crack the 53-man lineup. So still an option there if we wanted to do that. And I really don't see anything else that we could really add to it. Maybe another veteran offensive tackle, unless the Chargers are really comfortable with Foster Sorrell. Played a couple games for us last year, played fairly well last year. those are kind of the only positions I'm really looking at trying to upgrade. I'm happy with running back. I would love to see us go and sign Dalvin Cook when he's eventually released. I don't think Austin Eckler is going anywhere. No more room at wide receiver. I don't really think there's any room for another tight end. Plus, I don't think anyone is really out there. We got our interior defender. We're pretty stacked at linebacker, pretty stacked at edge. Kyle Van Noy, I just don't see a place for him on this team. I feel like yeah. I mean, he's one of those players that can play multiple positions, gives you some flexibility, but you've got 4 linebackers, outside edge rushers, and Joey Bosa, Kenneth Murray, Tuli, and Chris Rumpf. And then you've got, a good 4, Eric Kendricks, Kenneth Murray, Daiyan Henley, Nick Neiman. I just, maybe you find a place for him, but I think that the need's more special teams than anything. And Kyle Van Noy is probably not going to be playing special teams at this point in his career. So unless there's an injury during training camp, I don't think he's going to sign anywhere really until like the middle of training camp. Outside of that, I just don't see a place for him on this roster. So I see a safety need, a slot need. Potentially you find the same thing in the same player and you kind of knock out 2 birds, 1 stone, and, maybe a veteran offensive tackle. And that's really about it in terms of late season additions. We're in the middle of rookie training camp is over. We're in OTAs right now. I think it just started this week. So closing remarks, Zach.
No, I'm excited. Next week we get the second half of the draft to break down. I don't know where the state of this roster is. Not a whole lot of weaknesses. Guys are getting healthy at the right time. And we got a 27-0 blown lead to inspire us to greatness. So I'm excited. I'm ready for football. This is an exciting time. Everyone's 0-0. Everyone has a chance at the Super Bowl. So I'm gonna ride this excitement as while it lasts.
Yeah. So everybody's undefeated right now, including us. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be talking about our last 4 draft picks, and then the week after we'll be talking about some UDFAs. And then I think we typically head into breaking down our division rivals rosters. So that's what you get to look forward to as we head closer toward training camp in June. Maybe it's July. I think it's July is training camp. Thank you guys, and we'll talk to you guys next week.